Okay, sorry everybody.
Sorry everybody about the delay. We
had a bit of a technical issue again with comments, which we hopefully sorting out now. But we are 1 minute late, right? Not typical for us. We always try to join early, and as people join along.
Not many people are joining along though.
I saw Sasha before, and I saw somebody else before, so I'm sure we're gonna be back. If no, I'll teach you.
Oh, here we go. Here's comment. So we will try to reach as many comments as we can. If it's your first time, you need about more than 2.
Yeah, if it's your first time, in the group there are 2 messages which we have supplied for this live session. The theme for today is dreams in art. So you will need 2 images. First image will be by Giotto, and you will see it on the feed, and another image will be by Yayoi Kusama. So please make sure that you have them available on your device in the second tab, and one of the tabs will be for image 1, and then second tab for image 2. And if you listen to us on a phone or in another device, feel free to add some comments and just say hello, put thumbs up to see to respond to something what Melina will say. But it is 3 minutes past 3. We are already a bit delayed, so
yeah, only 2 people have joined so far.
Yeah, but thank you very much for coming.
More people are joining. Let's give everyone 1 more minute to join, and I think we'll be ready to go.
Yeah, I think we should start very soon anyway.
Yeah.
So
in a minute we can start.
Okay. So, dreams in art. Not the dreams in terms of, when you really wish for something. And
dreams like when you're asleep and you see it in your mind.
Exactly, a story in your mind. And what did artists do with that story? How it's represented. So the 2 artworks we have chosen will be very different. So Melina, this is the first one here. You feel free to make it bigger if you want, and smaller as well. So what children need to do, if you never joined before, is to spend a minute or 2 looking at the first image by Giotto, which is Joachim's dream, and it was a fresco which was painted in 1305.
I have no idea what's this about.
But, just have a look at it a little bit more and, try to work it out.
It kind of looks like 2 people with halos. That's weird.
Is one person a person?
No, one's an angel. I think the angel's Mary, but I have no idea.
Yeah, Mary does not have wings usually on artworks, so this is an angel. It could be that it's a Gabriel. Gabriel is an angel which brings messages from God.
Yeah, but who's that person down?
Let's start from the very beginning. So what do you see on Giotto's image?
I see, I think a lamb and 2 goats.
A lamb and 2 goats.
Yeah.
Who else can you see?
I can see 2 people with no halos, and then I see a person with halos.
Yeah, person with halos, and that person with halo is doing what?
And that person with halo looks like he's crying or going to sleep. I have no idea, really.
Going to sleep, or is he sleeping?
Sleeping, I think.
Okay, and look at his face. So if you have got the image available as well to you, which you can make bigger, have a look at Joachim's face. It's a gentleman on the right hand side of the image who is sleeping. How would you describe his face?
he looks really confused, or he looks kind of sad.
Worried, right? So like you can see between his eyebrows there are wrinkles here, so a bit like this. Oh, right.
He looks worried.
He does look worried. So you said at the very beginning, Melina, that it's quite difficult to work out, isn't it? Yeah. So we just have to let you know, everybody, guys, we cannot see your comments today, unfortunately, even on the second phone. So we'll address questions after the live will finish. We'll go over them and we'll reply in the comment section. But as Melina said, it is an image which is quite difficult to work out what is happening, apart from seeing the angel coming from the sky down and pointing to Joachim, who is a gentleman sitting.
I think she's going to wake him up.
Gabriel is not going to wake him up. But it's going to bring a message. And
how is she supposed to bring a message when he's asleep?
well, that's exactly what we are going to discuss. So the way you would work out this particular image is that if you would go inside the chapel, this is a fresco, one of many. So you come in the chapel, which is called Arena Chapel, and it has got many images of different scenes. So it's a little bit like a comic book. So you would know.
Can you stop scratching?
I'm not.
You're going like this.
Sorry. So if you go in and you see image one and you think, oh, okay, so there is Mary later on as a baby. You look at image two and you see that it's a wedding of Mary and Joseph. So you work it out because you look at different images across Arena Chapel and you come to this image. So this is actually a moment when Mary's father, Joachim's, he went to the countryside to pray, because at that time his wife and him, his wife Anne, they didn't have any children, and they really wanted children. And they were quite elderly. You can see he is not depicted as a young gentleman. He has got grey hair, so they were really worried that they're not going to have children. So he went to sleep. That's why this is an image of him sleeping. And in the dream, he's receiving a message from Gabriel, who's coming to him to say that he is going to be a dad. So there will be a baby.
Oh, kind of like the story of Jesus.
And
just they weren't asleep.
Exactly. So in a time of Renaissance and a bit, all the way pretty much until, let's say, 18th, 19th century, quite often dreams were shown from religious point of view. It was often about God's messenger coming while another person is asleep and telling his message through the dream. So the dream was actually for showing that God comes to you. But you know why in the dream? You were saying it's a bit weird. Because you could, it was said that you couldn't just kind of like directly talk to the God or talk to angels directly. So you needed to be in a special state of mind, in a special, different reality to receive the message.
But they had the children.
Yes, you know who was their child?
Who?
Mary.
Oh.
Yeah, so, and as you said, like Mary received the message as well, and many other times you'll go around the gallery in the Renaissance time and up to modern art. When people are asleep and receiving a message, it usually is a message from God. So like maybe from about 18th century, we start seeing more like nightmares being depicted and monsters and the fantasy starting to come through the dreams. But in the very early art, dreams were depicted to show the message of the God. Okay? All right. So let's now have a look, please, at the second image.
Is it called a dream or I dream?
No, the second image is
No.
has got a long name, so I'm gonna read it out. With all my love for the tulips, I pray forever. And that's by Yayoi Kusama.
It looks like she painted the whole room and then took a picture of the whole room.
Well, it's actually not a painting. So what is it? As you say, it's a room, right? So
Yeah, it's a room.
and then can you see in a room what is this there on the left hand side? Tulip. But what kind? Is it a picture of a tulip? Is it?
It's basically a room. Looks like the tulips camouflaging, kind of like camouflaging from its prey.
Yeah, so it's tulips are camouflaging because they completely blending together with the background.
Yeah, because it's all dotty, the background, and then actually, also, the room's dotty and the flowers and the tulips are dotty. Because there's one at the end, barely you can see, I think.
Yes, exactly. So how many tulips can you see?
3.
3, exactly. But it's very difficult.
But they're shaped like a triangle, aren't they?
Yeah, they have got quite angular shapes and they're also very wavy. So you were absolutely right saying it's camouflaging, and even though it's called, again I have to read, it's very long, with all my love for the tulips I pray forever, it's part of an exhibition which is called A Dream I Dreamed. So in this,
that's why it says Dream I Dream.
yeah. And how do you think this was created at the same time as another painting?
No. I think a bit later on.
Much later, in 2011.
Yeah, I could. I was born by that time.
And you know, by that time, Kusama was already, so she's 91 now, and that's nearly like, so it's 9 years ago. So she was already 82 when she has thought of that.
Yeah, but how many years did it take her to make that?
She's actually, so Kusama is a very interesting artist because she moved to New York as a young lady, but then she had mental health issues. And she moved back to Japan, where she's from, and she checked herself into a hospital where they help people with mental health problems, and she stayed there since then. So I think she's been living there for over 40 years or 50 years.
Yeah, but how many years did it take her to build that?
So she works a lot and sleeps very little. So sometimes she can create a room like that just in a matter of days, because she just works obsessively. So she works a lot, she wakes up and she eats very little, and she just goes around and
so she's been in
creates.
Hospital for nearly all her life.
Yes, she has her own studio there, and she creates.
So she's still in hospital.
Yes, she likes there. She feels safe there, and she feels like that's a.
But she can get out of bed herself.
Yes.
So she likes it there, but
so
it's
anyway,
not kind of completely her home.
It's home for her now, but anyway, the difference between the first in first image, it was a religious image.
Yeah, one question.
Yeah.
How can they put this in an exhibit when it's in a room already?
Well, they took it apart and then they install it. So this is actually called installation art. So if you compare that to first image, where it's a painting on a wall, which which you cannot move, it's a fresco. It's not a painting like a picture of a small size. It's a fresco. It means it was directly painted on the wall. So it's always going to be there. This is installation art, and you quite often can take it apart like a furniture and move from one country to another. But also in terms of...
What country is it in, Ben?
So you was going around the world. It was in New York, and then I think it was in Helsinki. It was definitely in Korea as well.
England?
I am not sure. I'll need to check that. But compared to dreams, why do you think this is a dream too?
Because there's no such thing as a whole. Well, there's no such thing as tulips, which have dots, and there's no such thing as kind of like a room which is dotty. So it's kind of a colourful dream,
But it is.
and kind of like it's looking. You're in the room. You're trying to find your way because it looks really the same. So maybe you think you're upside down.
Exactly. So you imagine yourself, because if you would go to exhibition like that, you walk into the room and imagine yourself being there, right? So you said there is no such thing, but actually for Kusama, this is what her brain sees and thinks and dreams about. So she has shown in her installation art what her dreams look like, but it doesn't mean that you will feel and see it exactly the same way as she feels and sees it. So if you would walk into that room, you would have your own feelings and your own thoughts about artwork like this.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between, virtual representation of dreams in some artworks, where you can, more or less easily work out a scene where there is a saint. In this case it was Joachim. He's sleeping, an angel is coming, sending him a message, and it's one type of dream. It's called figurative art, so you can see everything. And then you come into another artwork, virtually stepping into it, and it's totally different thing. You'll have to.
Yeah. So it's actually kind of like you're dreaming of a completely different world of dots.
And also,
everywhere you look is dots, so it's impossible to tell apart houses. It's impossible to tell apart the flowers.
Yeah, and do you think you and me would have exactly the same feelings when we would and thoughts when we would come in and see?
No.
Exactly.
Maybe you would feel. I would feel confused. You would feel surprised. So we'd both be feeling different feelings. Maybe someone would be feeling happy. Someone might be feeling sad. So there's so many different emotions you can see. Kind of like I have joy in the room, and you're confused in the room.
And if you would paint or create a dream of your own, like what would you choose to do? Would you choose to draw it and paint it, or would you choose to create 3D art? Create 3D art, because
3D
it
art.
is really fun. But another one has got meaning as well. So I kind of, you might not have noticed, but I'm actually wearing today's lesson.
Oh yeah, you are. You're wearing dots.
So I'm wearing a cross. That's to connect to the first part of.
You never take that cross
I
off.
do take it off sometimes when I wear different accessories, but I wear it a lot. And dirty. So
So you're connecting to it.
Yes, I'm connecting to it in my own way.
Yeah, because I could have never done that before I packed, because you never told me the theme or what pictures we were going to have. So that's
not fair, you think? But it was fun for me to trick you a bit. So, and with dreams, which one you think it's more honest way to show dreams? Like the one where you paint a dream which other person may have had and what has happened, or your own dream?
your own dream, I think.
Yeah, I agree. But it is, why we created before scenes like that? Because people who paid money to the artist, they would say, I want this and that and so on. And then artist would need to think about, okay, how I'm actually going to bring the idea of the whole story, and you know, we needed to depict it.
Oh, that's quite interesting.
So would you say these two works are completely different?
Completely different. Should we show everyone the pictures? Just to make sure they know.
Just to make sure they know. Yeah, okay, I can show my laptop there if you guys see, but people should, it's not very clear, but people should probably see it there.
Yeah.
This is the one we were talking about.
So if you didn't understand which picture, because you might have been on the first picture, so that's the picture we were speaking about.
Yeah, and the first one is in the group anyway. So thank you so much for joining us. So next time you go to gallery, whether it's modern art or it's a bit more traditional art, a few more tips. Please pay attention to the name of an artwork after you had a look at it, because it might point you to understand the story. So for example, if you're looking
kind of like one with Jesus.
Yeah, like
it could say Jesus with Mary. It could be called.
Could be called Jesus with Mary asleep. but it will tell you, like, you know, if you see a saint, as Melina was saying, you know, where is a saint, because it had halo on the head, and you cannot sometimes work out from the clothes. Some saints will have a very distinct clothing, like Saint John, you know, he's wearing like animal fur, so it's he's quite easily recognized. But some saints could be a bit trickier. So when you look at the name of the painting, it might help you to work out who is it, and then therefore what kind of dream it is. Like, because this is named Joachim's dream, we knew that it was about the father of Mary going into desert praying for a child. And with modern art, I mean much more contemporary art, most often interpretation is always you. So whatever you take away from it, whatever way you engage with the particular work, that's what it is. You know, as Melina said, some people might feel excited, some might feel confused, some might be a little bit bored. So yeah, just go with it and enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.